Today we're going to take a look at drawing our Jam 8 part. Today, the techniques we're going to be looking at is blueprint reading, profiling some complex shapes, constraining geometry, the points that we're going to drill, using a 2-point rectangle, multiple stock setups because we're going to have multiple origins, and creating multiple toolpaths. Now, as you take a look at this part, it has machining on the back as well as the front. We're going to take a look at that later on when we run our toolpaths. But to start off with, let's take a look at creating this shape. Starting off with our easy dimensions and our easy shape, this big rectangle, it's 5 inches by 2 inches, and we're going to extrude it back 1 inch for our total depth. So let's begin with that. Starting from our Inventor home screen, we're going to go up to the top ribbon bar, select a new, standard IPT, and click Create. Begin as always with a 2D sketch on our XY plane, and we're going to click Front in our World View Cube to zoom all. Then we're going to select our rectangle tool from the top ribbon bar. Beginning at my origin, I'm going to stretch out a rectangle, and this rectangle is 5 for my horizontal dimension. Press the Tab key, and it's 2 for my vertical dimension. Press Enter on the keyboard. Now that we have that drawn, let's go up to the top, green check mark, Finish Sketch. We're going to go Home to Zoom All, and let's click Extrude. We're going to extrude in direction number 2, the flip direction. We want to extrude a distance of 1 inch. So type 1 into distance A, and click OK. Now we have our basic shape for our part. You can see that we have this raised circle with 2 flat sides on it. We're going to take care of that next. And we also have this circle that's in the middle that's bored 1.5 in diameter, and it goes to a depth of a 1/2 inch. So this outside diameter is 2.25, and the hole for the inside is 1.5, and it goes a 1/2 inch deep. So let's do that now. Going back to our part, we're going to take our 2D sketch, place it on our front view. Click magnifying glass piece of paper to zoom all, or front in your world view cube to zoom all. And let's create that circle. So we're going to take a circle, place it somewhere towards the middle of our part. We're going to click and stretch out a circle that is 2.25. Press Enter on the keyboard. Now we have to take and center this circle on our part. So we're going to click Dimension tool from the top, and we're going to dimension from the left-hand side to the center of this circle. And this needs to be 2.5 to bring it in the middle. Green check mark or Enter on the keyboard. We're also going to dimension from the bottom of our circle to the center of that. And this is going to be 1. And that places that in the center. Okay? Now we're going to trim out the area outside here. However, as of right now, that circle is just one entity. We can't trim it because we don't have a bounding box for our rectangle. So we have to take and project geometry. We're going to project our geometry from our part beneath the sketch onto this sketch. And now when I go to trim, I should be able to take and trim out the top and bottom of that circle. Okay, green check mark, Finish Sketch. Now we're going to take and extrude. We're going to extrude, and we're going to select this half moon rectangle on the left-hand side and the one on the right-hand side. We're going to make that go in the flip direction to cut. And we want to go a distance. Let's take a look at our drawing again. Where do we find our distance? Up here in the top. We're going to extrude that down a distance of 0.5 or a 1/2 inch. Okay, so let's continue with that. Going back to my part, I want my distance to be 0.5. Select OK. Now let's take and put that circle in the middle. That circle here is 1.5 inches in diameter and goes a 1/2 inch deep. So now I'm going to take a 2D sketch, place it on the top of this circle, click front in my world view cube or magnifying glass piece of paper to zoom all. Once again, I'm going to project my geometry for this circle onto this sketch. That establishes my center point here. You see that pop up. Now let's take and let's get a circle tool. Starting from that midpoint or that center of that circle, we're going to lock on with a green dot and stretch this out. 1.5 is the diameter of this circle. Press enter on the keyboard. Green check mark, finish sketch. And we're going to take and extrude. Select that inside circle that we just drew. We want to extrude, flip direction, direction 2. We want to change our distance to 0.5. We also want to make sure our output cut is selected. Once you have that done, flip direction, direction 2, 0.5 for our distance, and cut is our output. Select OK. Okay, we're well on our way here. Next, let's take a look at creating this slot that goes across the top of that circle. Okay, that's going to be done with that 2-point rectangle once again. So now still with a 2D sketch, we're going to place that on the top of our circle here. Center it by clicking front in my world view cube or magnifying glass piece of paper. I'm going to change my rectangle to a 2-point rectangle. That gives me the center of the rectangle. Okay. Next, what I want to do, since I don't have any centers to lock onto, I'm going to project my geometry. I'm going to select this circle that projects that geometry onto this sketch and now establishes my center point there. See it? Now with my 2-point rectangle, once again, the split button underneath the rectangle tool, I clicked on that and came down to rectangle 2-point center. I'm going to start in the center when I lock on there, and I'm going to stretch this out. My horizontal dimension, 2.5, press the tab key, and my vertical dimension was 0.375. Enter on the keyboard. Take a look at my drawing. I can see that dimension right here for that width. Okay. Next, let's green check mark finish sketch. We're going to extrude. I want to extrude and select the whole rectangle. There it is. I want to extrude in the flip direction. I need to establish what my distance is, so let's go back to our sketch. Over here on the side, you can see that that slot goes down 0.25. Remember, we use a section view because we don't want to detail or we don't want to dimension hidden lines. And if we didn't section view this part for our right side view, we would be dimensioning a hidden line. Okay, so let's go back to our part. We're going to change this dimension to 0.25 and select OK. That looks great so far. Let's take a look at our holes that are in the corners. We have these 4 holes that are 0.25 and they go all the way through, and each one is 0.375 down from the edge. So let's take a look at creating these points. We're going to take a 2D sketch, place it on that first lower step, click front in your world view cube, and with my point tool I'm going to come over and I'm just going to place 4 points somewhere towards the corner in each one of these areas. Then I'm going to dimension from the bottom to this point, 0.375, 3/8 of an inch. I'm also going to dimension in for this bottom point, green check mark. Dimension down from the top for this one. And we're going to establish that last one by clicking the left hand side of my part and that right lower point. This one is 4.625, 4 5/8 of an inch. Okay. Now I could continue to dimension all the ones going around. However, I'm going to use some of the tools that I already have used in some of my other drawings, and that is constraining these points. I'm going to first come up to my constraint area in my ribbon bar. I'm going to select my horizontal constraint. Kind of looks like two parallel lines with three little feathers coming out of the bottom. And I'm going to select my lower left hand point and my lower right hand point to align those horizontally. I'm going to select my upper left hand point and my upper right hand point to align those horizontally. And I'm going to switch my constraint from horizontal to vertical. It's the same icon, it's just going vertical this time. And I want to vertically constrain the lower left to the upper left and the lower right to the upper right. Okay, that saves us some time putting dimensions on. Then we're going to take green check mark, finish sketch, and we're going to use our hole tool feature for this. So select hole from the ribbon bar at the top. I want to have a simple hole with no seat. I do want to have it going all the way down, so the arrow going through the three pancakes right here. And I'm going to change my dimension right here in the box. Change my dimension to 0.25. Click OK. That looks wonderful. Now if we go back to our part and view all in our drawing, you can see that this has a slot cut out of the back. Okay, the detail for that slot we can see on the side view here. It's 0.75 up from the bottom and a ½ inch in width, and it is 0.25 in depth. So we're going to do that as well. Go back to your part. We're going to flip our part around by clicking that top left corner in our world view cube. That flips our part around. We're going to take a 2D sketch, place this on our back view. Notice how I have my back reading correct in my world view cube here. And I can click back to zoom all on that and center it, or a magnifying glass piece of paper. So now let's go back to our regular two-point rectangle. I'm going to start on the left-hand side of my block when that highlights. I'm going to click and stretch out a rectangle. The height of this rectangle, the length of this rectangle is 5 inches. Type 5 on the keyboard, press the tab key. The width of this rectangle is 0.5. Press enter on the keyboard. Okay, now we have to establish the height from the bottom up. So look at my drawing again. The height from my bottom of the part up to where that slot begins is 0.75. So now we're going to enter in a dimension from the bottom of my part to the bottom of this rectangle. Place it off to the side and enter in 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. Green check mark. Okay, now let's take and finish sketch. We're going to extrude. We're going to extrude this rectangle. We want to cut it, so let's flip it around. We have a distance that we're going to enter in of 0.25. And make sure that your output is on cut. Click OK. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to come up to our ribbon bar at the top, way at the top, and we're going to select the default. And we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we're going to choose yellow for our Jam 8 part. Okay, this is looking great. Let's go up to the top above our ribbon bar, go to the orange file. Let's go down to Save As. We're going to select this into our H drive, so click on this pull-down menu. Go down to your H drive, first initial last name 000, the gray box with the green line underneath of it. And we're going to call this, that's an asterisk, 8. And then your last name. So I have 8 Jam and my last name. You're going to type your last name there. And then click open. Okay? Now, once we have this part saved, we're going to talk about cutting tool paths on this next. This is something new for us. We're going to have 2 setups, one for the front side and one for the back side of this. We're actually going to cut the back first. So stay tuned for the next video, and we'll show you how to run the tool paths in order to create your 8 Jam part.